讲的引言人。那这一场演讲比较特别，就是全程会用英文就是做演讲。那 Somi 他是来自于南韩的独立游戏开发者。那他期间在游戲独立开发的过程中，他推出了3款游戏，其中有一款游戏叫 Replica， 就获得多项奖项。那他也获得2017年台北国际电玩展的一个奖。那今天的演讲中 ，Somi 将探讨就是游戏的这个概念，这个传播媒介。那他将介绍那个 Replica 的游戏的背景，还有游戏的影响，还有他想传达的政治理念。那会后 Q&A 的部分，就是大家一样可以用中文发言，那我将为大家翻成英文，然后就是给 Somi， 然后 Somi 会用英文回答你们。谢谢大家。那 Let's start and give the Somi the big bravo. Thank you.
Hello, nice to meet you. This is a bit nervous for me. It is probably, for me, this is my first time where I'm giving this kind of lengthy speech in a language that is not native to me. So I tried to memorize all the sentences, but it failed. And please, I ask for your understanding if there are any mistakes. Okay? Cool. I'm a game developer, Somi, and I'm a one-man developer out of Busan, South Korea. I'll briefly talk about my background first. I first got into game development by studying Unity in 2014. I still hold my day job, which has nothing to do with game development. And back then, I thought my daily professional life is really boring and unproductive, repetitive. So I thought it is a really good idea making something that can be played and enjoyed by people. It seemed interesting to me, so I studied Unity and game development. I've released a game per year since 2014. So on the left side, Rabbitour 3D is my first one. It is a kind of action game where you are listening to an audiobook of Alice of Wonderland while avoiding letters. And the second one is Resonum. It is a 2D action platformer game where the main character is father and he's trying to find a cure to heal his daughter who is infected by the zombie virus. And Replica is my third one, and it is released last year. And now I'm currently working on my new project called Legal Dungeon, which is featured with a whole new gameplay ideas of my own. So, here's the topic of this speech: game as a political medium. Since I've decided the topic of this speech, I've given a lot of thought about this topic. In my view, I think a lot of games here are standouts of political games, especially Detention. I love that. And I thought about analyzing games which had political influence and even look at some games that were abused as a political propaganda. I've also thought about discussing the message behind the certain political games and mention the effect it had. However, I've concluded that the reason why I was invited here is not to review cases and discuss them. I thought when a certain game's developer is invited to speak, it's not to review cases and talk about academic theories nor studies on games, but to listen to detailed stories and experiences of the developer. So I've narrowed down on what I'd like to talk about today. The first is what kind of message I wanted to convey as a writer. And second is how these messages affected the players and gave Replica a role as a political medium. Is there anyone who played Replica? Yeah, I love you guys. Yeah, thank you very much. Let me show you the trailer video of Replica first. Replica is a point-and-click adventure game, and the game contains 12 endings in it, where the main character is given a smartphone with no knowledge of owner, and the player needs to utilize whatever clue is on the phone to figure out and solve the problems. The game contains many elements about massive surveillance, fascism, and personal privacy, totalitarianism, desire to pick, etc. It was released on Steam and mobile. So if you have not tried the game out yet, this is the link of the DRM-free version. So please give it a try. Okay? Okay, cool. So, okay, there's maybe no problem with delivery. Cool? Okay. When I make a game, I think about this. Game is a medium that reveals who I am. And the story within is my story. And me is a result of my personal experience where I've lived through my own times. Therefore, the story of my games coincides directly with the times I've experienced. So, in order to tell you guys about the story of Replica, I need to explain the background of what was going on in Korea at the time when the game development took place. This is my country. No, this was my country. Do you know, is there anyone who knows the name of that man? Sorry? Russia. Actually, yeah, he's Rasputin. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, right, exactly. The Russian mystic and self-proclaimed holy man who had considerable influence in the late imperial Russia. And at the time, the Korean government was being puppeteered by the woman who was not even on the ballot of presidential election. And the puppeteer gave a special order to her puppet. She had a position as a president of Korea. Yeah, that kind of thing was happening in Korea. And the puppeteer was compared as a 21st century Rasputin. This puppeteer pointed out that Korea's tendency towards the left, towards the left, was a big problem in Korea, and that included art and culture. This picture on the right side, on the top, is from the news broadcast, and there's a list, so-called blacklist, and there are many names on it. Many artists from movie and publishing industry were blacklisted by the government and subject to many disadvantages because they voiced any criticism about the government or a member of the ruling party. The movie titled Attorney, which showed favoritism towards the former president, democratic president of Korea, and perhaps criticism about the government, had received a lot of pressure on the movie studio CEO to resign. Comedy shows, that one, stopped doing political satire altogether. And the government seized all the movie tickets of that movie on the right side. And even made some kind of bad reviews around it because they didn't like it. Isn't it surprising? It hasn't been that long. Even though now there is a new government in Korea, and all of this feels like yesterday. In the midst of this oppression, the ruling party introduces a new anti-terrorism bill in 2016. Anti-terrorism bill. The bill was about allowing the National Intelligence Service in Korea to spy on anyone they deem a potential terror suspect. It allowed them to collect information and spy on people based on their beliefs, faith, and location, telecommunication record, etc. Because the law could have been easily exploited to allow the intelligence service to secretly spy on anyone, including civilians. There was a record 192-hour filibuster in Congress in an attempt to stop the bill from the opposition party. Of course, the filibuster has failed, and now the anti-terrorism bill is in effect in Korea. But at that time, many representatives tried to warn the country about the danger of that bill, and during that filibuster, one of the lawmakers read that book called Little Brother by Cory Doctorow, and I immediately read it. Little Brother. The book is about a 17-year-old boy in a near future dystopian San Francisco. The story takes place in America, where the country has experienced terrorism a few days ago, and the Homeland Security was entrusted with a lot of power. Under the massive control and surveillance, a normal high school boy is captured and tortured and imprisoned. For me, the novel felt real. because at the time I thought the political climate in Korea was surreal. I felt chills down the spine because of all the totalitarianism, political situation of public safety. Now coming back to the anti-terrorism law, some have stood in front of the mic and spoke 10 hours to prevent the law, and some participated in the protest on the street. Writers wrote, artists painted, musicians sang a song to warn the danger of the bill. And a thought hit me. I'm a game developer, I'm a game writer, so there's only one thing I can do. Thus, the basis of Replica's main story was coming together. In Replica, the player has already been imprisoned by the Homeland Security. The only thing given to the player is a phone that belongs to a friend in the next prison cell. So the country has already labeled him as a terrorist. The reason being is that his location record and bus transit card history was different than that of other normal students. The player must try to unlock the PIN code and find the evidence that is related to acts of terrorism as directed by a government agent. So this Che Guevara t-shirt the friend wore is the clue of his biased beliefs. And all the comments he left on his Facebook and Twitter can be evidence of terrorism. The player can make a choice in the game, either frame the friend as a terrorist or resist the government and risk the fact that you too can be a potential terrorist suspect yourself. So it is some kind of like prisoner's dilemma. As I was making a game with such a structure, I thought maybe the benefit of having a game as a political medium was like this. Is that through the interactive story, the player can directly involved in the story, be involved with the writer's intention. It means that this interactivity is hard to find in any other medium. It causes people to have moral dilemma, and the weight and guilty of the outcome is directly felt by the player. So once the player has directly experienced the situation and dilemma as a main character, it gives them a chance to think one more time about when they come to face a similar situation in real life. So I didn't want Replica to have such a clean-cut reaction like Adolf Eichmann would have against Hitler. Players given choices to react swiftly. They can report to the police or call the investigative reporter or call his parents or connect to his friends via Bluetooth. There are many given choices. And I thought the game would be a success if it made the player feel even remotely guilty or responsible about the situation while playing. As I started incorporating anti-terrorism and fascism into the game, I realized that there are so many stories that are needed to be told in a society. So, as I've mentioned, the situation in Korea was some kind of oppression in individual faith and beliefs under the disguise of the law. I tried to place these stories in the game to convey the danger behind it. One sticking point was the purchase of hacking program of Intelligence Service of Korea. In 2015, a notorious Italian cyber weapon seller hacking teams' email and client list were leaked online. One of their top clients was, surprisingly, South Korea. This was the introduction from Little Brother's Korean edition. Back in 2015, this revelation didn't cause too much controversy. The media has completely lost their ability to criticize anything. And the intelligence service simply said that the hacking program was purchased in order to surveil North Korea, not civilians, and closed the book on it. So in Replica, I incorporated the actual news reports at that time. One funny thing is that those real news reports didn't feel out of place in the game at all. The comments in the game were actual comments at that time. So the comments was like this. No one cares about your boring private life, and some other one says that you wouldn't like it if you have to be without pants even if your penis is only 3 centimeters. I'm sorry. The other part I wanted to tell was about the national history textbook controversy. The caption from that photo means that Korean education of history is dead. It's from where students were protesting. In 2015, the government started to revise the history textbook of all schools under the presidential order. At the time, the government claimed that all the history textbooks in Korea are skewed 99% toward the left. And if you are against revising the textbook, you are not a citizen of Korea, they said. So the new revision was eventually published, and it was like a fiction with no way to know the author. The new revision has softened the period of dictatorship and dumbed down the history about Japanese occupation in Korea. In the game, I try to bring up this issue through the eyes of the main character. In the game, many political terms and diversity of beliefs have not been taught yet, and the boy says that the word fascism wasn't included at all on the national textbook published by the government, like this. And the fact that the main character in the game could be labeled as a terrorist just because he clicked like on Facebook and used Telegram and Gmail, all derived from what actually happened in Korea, 21st century Korea. At the time, there was a person, in that CNN photo, he was arrested just for retweeting a tweet. Yeah, CNN covers that arrest over North Korean joke because he retweeted North Korean tweet. That was the reason. And there was a warrant issued because a person used Gmail. Is there anybody who uses Gmail? It means that you are a terrorist. Because it means that there's something to hide. Yeah, they said that. And so I was really jealous when some overseas players told me that Replica's main story is really exaggerated and like cartoon. So I thought that for the players living in this day and age, the game was a sad truth, sad reality, while it was just a cheap cartoonish dystopia to others. I want to tell more about the detail, the reasons how certain elements in the game came to be, but I think it's a good idea to stop here because I know that you guys are recording the video and it will be on YouTube, so I'd like to remind you guys that I'm generally calm and conservative and I'm a normal, law-abiding citizen. And all I was saying today was not to criticize my country or government. Yeah, I love my country. I love Korea. And yeah, there's a new government and the democracy of Korea is getting better and better. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not afraid at all. So, it's a bit hard to talk about the response and the effect Replica's release had. All I can see with my eyes are some online reviews and scores, and it is very subjective matter as to how it should be interpreted, and meaning could be lost in translation. So I'll try to simply relay what happened as is. So, as I've said, I'm very humble and innocent artist, right? So, I'm not going to talk about how popular the game was, nor all the recognition the game has received, because those are not important at all. So, I'm not going to tell you guys about this picture. It's taken where the game won the Grand Prix award at Taipei Game Show. Yeah, it's not that important at all. And this picture, this captured image means that Replica was #1 top-selling game in Korea. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I can say this enough, but I'm humble. So the image you see, oh, well, okay. After Replica became known in Korea, one right-wing site, there is a big right-wing site in Korea, extremely. And they said that my game is radical left game. When the extreme right-wing says that radical left game, it means that you worship North Korea and you worship Kim Jong-un and you praise communism. Yeah, I was really afraid. After seeing these comments, I've deleted all of me and my family's photos on my Twitter and Facebook. I was really afraid. And there's another comment in the same site that is saying, this is a shitty ass game and I want to know where the developer is living and what he is doing for his living. So, actually there was no Korean language in the game when the Replica released for the first time, even though it is a Korean game, because I was afraid. As I was releasing the game including Korean language, I expected something like this, but my reaction was extreme because when actually happened, I was really afraid of it. But thankfully, those kinds of comments were minor. I've received a lot of support and encouragement from many people. For example, Voice of Korea said that I'm a political activist. But all I did was make a game. And there were many reviews worrying about the developer, me. This review says that the developer might end up like the main character in the game and hope he is alive. Yeah, so many reviews are saying like that. And there are many media outlets in Korea, but a progressive paper named Hangare selected Replica as one of their top games of 2016. And as you can see on that Twitter, her ID is Spy Girl. Yeah, she's very famous one who was CIA spy, former, and she endorsed my game too. So through all of this, I felt the game resonated with a lot of people, and they also felt the need of change as well. Replica sold more in China and Korea combined compared to other countries. I absolutely had no idea how to enter Chinese market, so there was zero promotion. In that sense, the reaction I got from China was a shock to me. It was really especially shocking because the game's content was dealing with something political. So, and the reaction from Turkey was also special. Even though the number may seem a bit low on this picture, but I've got many emails about comparing the game and to their political situation. And someone made a Turkish Replica fan site as well. It reminded me again that yeah, this one, it reminded me again. For someone, it is a sad reality, but for someone, it's just a dystopia cartoon. And I also discovered how we might all be in different situations, have different experiences. We have ability to feel the same empathy, and through something that could bring out mutual understanding, we can understand each other better. Since Replica became known, there were a lot of changes. There were candlelight protests and the impeachment of the president and the arrest of the former president and the new rise of the new government. There were so many big changes. On the day of the impeachment, I made the game available for free. And the reaction was explosive. The game, which contains my narrative, morphed into an impactful political medium. It is now a part of politics in these turbulent times. I'll show you again this picture. Yeah, the image you see here on the right side is the top trending words on Twitter on that day, I mean the impeachment day. Or other words are about impeachment, except only one, that is Replica. Everyone was using my game as a way to celebrate the impeachment. So, I'd like to talk about a political medium again. Being political can be defined by doing something that may affect the country or the government's running of the country or the running itself. But it can be defined in a much broader sense. In a way, being political is doing something that may affect interactions between individuals, groups, and how the power is distributed within, including the area of running the country. And the game, which has the ability to affect that interactions and the power distributions, I think that's how I would define a game as a political medium. So, in a political game, the writer shows interest and talks about the issues of society, people, and human. And the writer instills their own views through a game. And hopefully, the game can lead to fewer of thought or affect a small change in the society. This is how I want to move forward in my game development career, because game is the perfect medium to deliver a political message. Now, of course, I'm still afraid. I don't think this paranoia will go away easily. I'm still feeling the same terror I felt when I was developing Replica. I'm just a mere individual, and the reality is that my natural rights can be denied by those who seek to oppress me. But I'm far from done. I have a lot of ideas about stories, what I want to tell and what I want to write about. I think it's a good idea to show you the new game I'm working on right now. When I got to the prototype of this game stage and had few of my close friends to play this game out, their feedbacks were being not fun or boring. So I've decided that the new game's theme would be a boring game. It is called as Real Tedious Paperwork Simulation. All games should be fun? I don't think so. The game's title is Legal Dungeon. Yeah, let me show you the trailer of the pre-alpha version. The player takes a role as a rookie detective fresh out of police academy, and you must review all the paperwork on a closed case and file a final statement to police. The player decides whether or not if the suspect is prosecuted based on all the paperwork regarding to the conditions of their sentencing, the actual verdict, and their prior convictions. Well, it's boring and hurting just thinking about it, right? In the midst of the process, the player has to focus on one thing, that is a score. To the employees with high scores, they are given bonuses and chances of promotion. Employees with low scores will be stripped of benefits and possible dismissal. The result-oriented system is the best way to maximize the organization's function, efficiency, and economic feasibility. The Korean police, in my opinion, is seriously obsessed with a result-oriented system now. Their performance determines the salary and promotion. The scores each individual officer gain is the basis of their ability and loyalty to the organization. For example, 2 points would be given for robbery and 15 points would be given for murder. It's a weird system where police get rewarded more if there are more crimes. No one cares about the victims and crime prevention because it rewards nothing. I thought this seems like an RPG game where you get a reward by killing monsters. So in the game, players will defeat criminals by filing paperwork and face the moral consequences. So the players will experience the gap between the reality and law and will be corrupted within the system before they know it. And I want them to feel guilty again while playing this game. Because it is a karma against all the deeds they've done. I'll continue to reflect my views and thoughts in my games and try to make it unique and experimental. I ask for your support and encouragement. That's all I've prepared. Thank you very much for coming.
谢谢 Somi 带来精彩的演讲。那有谁想要提问的吗？麦克风。
Hello, thank you very much for your game and your talk. I play Replica and it really made me, it has a great atmosphere and I was really nervous while playing the game. It's like I'm afraid of every move the big brother might call me and say that I'm doomed, something like that. But at the very end, the true ending is more light and jokish. I just wonder why you decided to make the game end this way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for playing and enjoying my game. And yeah, I think it is a very good question. As I've said already, I was really afraid of, back then, I was really afraid. I mean, I felt something could be happen when it is released. So the true ending is a bit cartoonic and a bit fun. So if I put in the real, where's that? Real revision of government. What is that? A revolution. I'm sorry. If I really put in revolution in the game, I thought that there must be something happen to me. So yeah, I made that kind of thing. Yeah, this is the truth.
Okay, so microphone.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to know how do you compare App Store and Google Play versus Steam as a medium for political games?
On Steam Store, actually, I'm not thinking about numbers at all. So I don't know the exact amount, how much I sold, but it sold like 80,000 copies, maybe, on Steam. And on mobile, Apple and Google are almost similar, but in Google, as you know, China market is blocked now, so Apple is a bit more than Google, and it is a bit like 50% of the sale in Steam. Yeah, it seems like that. But in mobile, Replica is in the Tap store and a few more platforms in Japan. There's a few more local stores, so it sells a bit the same to sales in Steam store. Yeah, so it's almost same.
What about the
Feedbacks from mobile users? They wanted a lot of functions at first. I mean, there's a kind of auto rotation thing and a few problems with touching, but after fixing them, most of their reviews are like, it feels better on the phone because it's a real simulation of phone breaking, so their reviews were good.
Okay, thank you. The question, and anyone have a question?
Well, first of all, great presentation and really good game. We all enjoyed it. And my question is, as you mentioned in the presentation, that the game not necessarily has to be fun or enjoyable for many, but at the same time, you wanted more players to be engaged, and you want to kind of sort of lure them in, to try the game at least, and then to kind of understand what you're doing, because you still have to spread that word. And how do you achieve that fine balance in a way, when in terms of game design? Do you do a lot of play testing, or just any way that you get your inspiration from, like, try to have fun game design at the same time the game is not fun, so it's kind of contradicting itself?
So, as I've said, I think my game's not fun, very serious and boring, but I think that games should hold players' interest, even though it is not fun. So, holding their interest is conducted by the story's strength of story. Yeah, so I think the writing in the game, especially in this kind of narrative game, is really important, like detention. Yeah, so yeah, I think that is the most important thing. But nowadays, I'm really afraid of my lack of ability to write good novel or good stories of game, because my new game is making me crazy. Yeah, there is much more boring than Replica, so I want to quit this project as soon as possible, but that's my child, so I have to bond him. I'm sorry. My English is not native, so you understood?
Focus on the story. Focus on the story.
Okay.
The boy is first.
Thank you for your presentation. And about the time you make your games, how long did it take you? Because you need to be following the news and incident all the time. By the time you publish it, and then maybe the incident will be away, people will be forgetting about that. How do you try to control your quality and time together for your games? I'm speaking too fast. It's hard to answer.
Can you explain again?
So you are trying to do political medium for your games, right? And they are following some incidents that happened in the past or maybe happening recently.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Try to be timely.
So the game is talking about the past, right?
Yeah.
When it is released. Right. Yeah, that is very good point. And actually, I'm afraid of it. I mean, my new game is about all the meritocracy. I mean, the score-based police activities in Korea. But now there's a new government, and new government is trying to erase all the traces of the former government, and the score-based police will be deleted, and they will do something better. And at that time, my game would be useless. So I'm afraid of it. Maybe I can make a kind of petition to government, please stop doing that and make it remain, I mean the score before till the release date. Yeah, but there's no result of thoughts. Yeah, it's really same point where I'm worrying about. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, someone will buy and play this and feel some kind of same emotions and thoughts with me, and that is the meaning of the game, and that's all I can do. Yeah, I cannot expect the future's change. So yeah, I just do my best as someone who lives the same age and day. So yeah, that's all I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this question time is yeah. You.
Hi, to me, your first two games is more like action game and doesn't seem to have too much story in it. So what makes you become like to start a project that is more story focused and in a narrative way?
Yeah, I got it. Actually, Replica was not at first. It was not talking about the government or any criticism about the country. Yeah, it was something like a mystery adventure game based on the story of the talented Mr. Ripley. There's a movie and novel written by Highsmith, and I love that movie and novel. So the main character is Tom Ripley, and he really good at mimicking anything. So he mimicked other persons. So at first it was the story, but I think the reason it was changed because of the government at that time was really trying to doing bad a lot. So I wanted to use my game as a medium. So I changed everything. So if there were not the puppeteer government, maybe Replica would be some kind of just mystery porn hacking game. Yeah, but they changed a lot of my game. So I have to say thank you to the former government.
Okay, one more question. The black girl.
This time is more difficult than presentation.
Hi. Actually, I play your game and I really like it. And I see that there are some reference like Paper Please and also like V for Vendetta, if I recognize it correctly. So I'm just curious, how do you find the ideas from other media, and how do you transform it into Replica's gameplay and OU narration? Thank you.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just thinking about the answer. Yeah. Can I answer them privately? It's really hard for me to translate my ideas into English. Yeah. I'll answer you after the show. Okay, cool.
So, do anyone have a more question? Or I just end up the event today? Okay. So let us to give the Somi big bravo again.